Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new monthly movie ranking here on Max Talks Movies. So today, this is how this episode's worked. I've done this in July, June, and I believe May, and August, July, June. That's how it is. So today, this is how it works. I tell you my ranking of all of the movies that I saw in the month of August. Now, all these reviews are up on my YouTube channel. I'll give you a link for those while I am giving you my things. And at the end of the video, they should be next to my head as well. If you're new to Max Talks Movies, thank you for joining me. I'll hopefully talk about all the movies that you've also seen here in the month of August. Please, the best way to support the channel is to like the video, share this video to anyone you think would be interested in watching this. Comment down below. Give me your ranking. I definitely didn't see every movie in the month of August, so let me know your ranking down below. And if you agree with my ranking or disagree with my ranking, and please subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. Because this is a bit of a long video, I've seen 8 movies this month. Let's just get right into it. So coming in last place and number 8 is the movie that is currently the poster behind me, and that is The Sleepover, which is the Netflix original film. For me, just to spoil my other picks, this is the only below average movie that, in my opinion, that I saw in the month of August. Now, this movie for me was, again, I'm not going to go in full detail with each movie because all these reviews are already up on my channel in 8 to 10 minute long breakdowns. And these are also non-spoiler, by the way, so you don't have to see these movies to be here. So The Sleepover was a pretty much bad film for Netflix. It's another Netflix film, a forgettable kids movie. There's basically a journey between the 4 kids and the 3 adults, a spy kids movie, basically. Joe Manganiello, Melina Ackerman, Ken Marino are the adults. They're trying their best. Melina Ackerman, easily the best part about the film, but the film runs into a lot of its own traps. It's very cliched. It's very predictable. Some of the storylines for especially some of the kids, especially our lead kid, you've seen those type of storylines in movies like this a million times. This movie runs into its own traps. The action scenes were not well shot, in my opinion. When they're there, this movie needed a lot more action. When it was there, it felt very, very rushed and not well shot. I couldn't really tell what was going on. Manganiello was funny when he was on screen. The villains, if you want to call them villains in this movie, you could see that coming a mile away. So overall, guys, The Sleepover is a movie that I really did not enjoy and easily is the worst film that I have seen in the month of August. So now we're going to move into a big step, not a huge step forward, with our next one, and that is Magic Camp. There it is. The Disney Plus had their most busiest month for original movies. I saw all of them. I'll get into those later. So Magic Camp was a movie that I had such low expectations for. It felt like an Artemis Fowl type of thing where this movie was filmed almost 3 years ago, just like Artemis Fowl. It was supposed to come out in theaters a year ago or even 2 years ago, I believe. It was pushed. Then this movie was completely abandoned until Disney Plus, and Disney Plus just threw this movie on the streaming service, which literally is the story behind Artemis Fowl, which is easily one of the worst films, in my opinion, of the year. So I had such low expectations. Is this a good movie? No. Is this an awful movie? No as well. I was surprised enough to get something out of it. Adam Devine, who I'm a big fan of, kills it in basically a Jack Black School of Rock type of role here. He's the lead character. He is so funny. His emotional moments too with some of the kids. You feel he has a connection with each of the kids in his camp group, and that was great. Jillian Jacobs, when she gets on screen, is great. She isn't on screen not enough. She's supposed to be this very famous, big-time magician. We don't really see her do magic that often. I was kind of disappointed with that. Jeffrey Tambor is in the movie as the head. But again, this movie is so cheesy, so forced, at times too emotional for what this movie is. Our lead kid has this thing where he has this great card trick, but he doesn't do it now because the only person who liked seeing his card tricks was his dad, who passed away. So it feels like some of the storylines, some of the romances, especially our lead kid romance, felt so forced, and this movie felt very rushed. Again, an hour-and-a-half movie for Disney Plus Was it awful? No. For me, I gave this an average review. I think it's an average movie. There's some good stuff to take out of it, but a very predictable, very cheesy third act that at times pulled me out of the film. So Magic Camp comes in squarely at number 7. So now we're going to move to the rest of these next 6 movies, in my opinion, are above average. So let's go it. Number 6 for me is Work It, which was one of the first Netflix original movies in the month of August. And again, low expectations for me heading in. Feels like I just saw this type of movie. It was called Feel the Beat, another Netflix movie that came out last month. And my review for that is also up on my YouTube channel. So this movie for me, I felt like it was just fine. Our cast here was really great, especially Sabrina Carpenter and Jordan Fisher, and the main and her friend, I forgot what her name is, but the 3 leads in this movie are fantastic, in my opinion, in this film. The actual dance sequences, you get a lot of dance sequences in the film, and they all pretty much work for the most part of the movie. I really did enjoy myself watching this movie for the most part, as I said. The Sabrina Carpenter storyline, or why she creates the dance group, is a storyline that we've seen with different sports and dance and stuff a million times. The fact that she's a perfect student, but the college doesn't want to just take a school person, they just want to take up, you need to do other actions. So she creates this dance group, and it kind of happens. I wish we've gotten enough time with the rest of this cast. You only really get time with 3 characters personally, and the rest of the group just felt like they were there. You didn't feel a connection to any of the rest of the characters here on this list. So I was pretty disappointed to that. Like I said, some of the dance weekend sequences in the first act really didn't work, in my opinion. Felt very forced and just very cheesy. And again, the third act is a very cliched and very predictable movie, but because of the cast was so good and the dancing in the second and the third act were so strong, I gave this an above average review here on my YouTube channel. Let's move in here to our top 5 here, and that is another Disney Plus original movie, and that is the one and only Ivan. So now this movie has probably the most stacked cast in the month of August. Sam Rockwell, Angelina Jolie, Danny DeVito, Helen Mirren, Bryan Cranston are all in this movie. And this movie for me was good enough. It was a fine Disney Plus original film. The actual Ivan, the character voiced by Sam Rockwell, the big gorilla, was really great. The Brooklyn Prince voices the baby elephant. She was great. Dan DeVito basically steals the whole movie as Bob the dog. And Bryan Cranston, one of the most surprising characters in the film. You feel like you've seen his type of character in movies before, and then you give him multiple different twists and make him a very layered character. You understand why the animals want to leave. You understand why Bryan Cranston wants them to stay. And you're not rooting against any character really in this movie. The main issue with the movie for me, again, I felt like the first 40 minutes of the film, I had no idea where we were going. It didn't seem like there was any plot. It just felt like we kept watching the circus over and over again. It got very annoying. And maybe 45 minutes in the movie, if I'm correct, something huge happens and suddenly the plot is just put upon us. And for me, I feel like the film needed a little more time to breathe or to bring in the plot actually earlier in the film. Because you brought the actual plot into this movie so late into the movie, the actual plot and where our characters end up felt very rushed. Angelina Jolie's character for me was easily the weakest. She's the big elephant. What happens to her character, I mean, you can see coming a mile away, and the cliche, cheesy things that she says in the movie just pulls me out. There's one emotional scene, and I didn't buy it at all. It felt so rushed, so unnecessary to the actual story on why the animals want to go. Just, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So the one and only Ivan, again, I give it 3 out of 5 stars to this movie, just like I did Work It, but I did like this cast a lot more than Work It, so that's why it's here. Top 4 here. It's a pretty good month here. Number 4 for me was the most recent review on my YouTube channel, Phineas and Ferb, the movie, Candace Against the Universe. Now, I grew up with the Phineas and Ferb TV show, so I was really pumped to go back into this world. I kind of forgot a lot of the characters, boom, the opening scene happens and characters keep popping up. I'm like, oh my God, I remember this storyline, this character. And I was already back enveloped into this story once again. A really fun movie. And now again, as I said in my review on this channel, and it is my most recent review, that I got a lot of great support for. Thank you guys for watching this past review. But it really was Candace's movie. Now, yes, Phineas and Ferb are still, for the most part, they are the title characters for a reason. But as you can tell, as I said in my YouTube review, in this poster, Candace is the tallest one because Candace is really the main character. It's about her. In the TV show, her only purpose was to bust her brothers. Phineas and Ferb do all these crazy things, and Candace can never bust them in 7 years of a show. But now in this movie, she gets annoyed by it. She's like, I'm done busting them. No, it feels like she's lonely in the universe. Then she gets abducted by aliens, and she believes, and the aliens see her as the chosen one. So then she believes she has a purpose again, which is the first time that this has happened in the entire world of Phineas and Ferb. But then you realize the amount of memories made between the family of Phineas and Ferb and Candace, and it really does hit good emotional beats in the third act. Some great messages for kids. Perry the Platypus gets in here. The whole gang gets to do some fun stuff in this movie. My main issue with the movie for me, and also it's one of the funnier movies. There's one joke that Phineas and Ferb do about saying something really fast that they kept doing throughout the whole movie, and I was cracking up laughing. Now, for me, the third act was easily the weakest in the film. There was way too much action that didn't make any sense going on. Now, yes, this is Phineas and Ferb. Most of the stuff that happens doesn't make any sense. But for me, it came lunacy in the third act, the big battle in the third act. And there was way too much going on. It was kind of like the writers wrote what the big battle would be, and they kind of threw it all at the screen. And for me, there was a little too much going on. I was kind of distracted on where everything was going. How they never explained how some of the stuff was happening. Definitely pulled me out of the movie at times in that third act. And also, there were a lot of child jokes that really, this movie goes for a lot of jokes. And for a movie that goes for that many jokes, a lot of them are going to fall really flat. And this movie does have a lot of jokes that fall very flat. But for me, a really great, really good, solid movie for Disney+. I would recommend you guys really do check this one out. My top three is the next one on my list is a Netflix original movie, and that is Project Power. The new movie with Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I really thought this was a fun movie. Netflix has been really picking up with the action movies. We've had The Old Guard, Extraction, and now we got Project Power, which I think is the worst out of the three, but still had fun. The cast is really good here. The actual plot and what happened, the actual idea, the concept of this movie is brilliant. The fact that you take a pill and you don't know if it's going to kill you or turn into superpowers that you don't even know you have. So it's a very inventive plot, especially for Netflix. And the budget was pretty big for this movie, especially when you have this many A-list actors in it, and Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. They're both really good in the movie, especially Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who stole one scene. Let's just say he's in a robe. That was my favorite scene in the entire movie. Now, my main issue is where they took the Jamie Foxx character. When he first gets there, I kind of dig it, and then they go really deep into his character, and then it comes out to be, feels like an 80s plot line of going after your daughter who is taken by the villains of the movie, and saving your daughter. Now, this saving, of course, superheroes these days now, it feels like every year we get a movie where our lead character has to save his kid from villains. And for me, it rang way too cheesy and way too predictable in this movie. The villains were totally awful. They got no screen time when they got on the screen, and they feel like the movie wanted them to be the main villains. I couldn't care less about the people that were going after our lead characters whatsoever. And that just really hurt the movie a lot. The idea of the police getting superpowers made sense, but also didn't make sense. This movie the movie just ended. It abruptly just ended. It was a terrible ending, in my opinion. This movie could have been a really great movie, but the ending just happened. It didn't really make a lot of sense where they took R2, the girl in this movie, and Jamie Foxx. Like, it didn't make any sense. So as a whole, I think it was still a solid movie, great action, great cast, but did also have some issues in there. My number 2 movie, and this movie was in my top 10, but then my number 1 movie kicked it out of the top 10, and that was An American Pickle, the new HBO Max original movie with Seth Rogen playing 2 characters, the first movie that I saw in the month of August. I really did enjoy this movie. Seth Rogen, who is one of my favorite comedic actors in Hollywood, yes, he's definitely funny here, but he's got some real dramatic work. Obviously, we saw that in Jobs when he played Wozniak, but here he's playing 2 different people. The first guy on my left, he's an old guy. He 100 years before when this movie actually happens in present day, he gets thrown into pickle broth, and he basically stays alive for those 100 years and comes back into this time. And he finds out he's only 1 member of his family is left, and that is his great-great-grandson, I believe is what it is. And that is the guy on my right, the other Seth Rogen. And he does a great job in this movie. A beautiful score by Michael Giacchino, my favorite composer. The actual movie flies by fast. It's only an hour and a half, but it does feel like a streaming movie. At times, what the younger Seth Rogen does to the older Seth Rogen does felt very rushed, and you don't know why they would possibly make up at the end of the movie after what he did. But the movie, again, the third act doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, the ending. But again, I really enjoyed this movie. A great performances, basically, by Seth Rogen. Actually, his normal Seth Rogen, the guy on my right, he was just Seth Rogen. I mean, he wasn't a character. It was just Seth Rogen. The real performance was the old man, and he was great in that role. So that's why this movie comes in number 2. And easily at number 1 with the highest rating of a 4 to 5 stars, and in my top 5 movies, not just on Netflix, but of the year. And that is All Together Now, which is a Netflix movie that a lot of people have forgotten already, that people haven't seen it. It came out this past Friday. During the week, obviously on Friday, you had Bill and Ted come out, you had New Mutants come out, you had all of this stuff going on. So in general, I thought this movie was going to get forgotten, and it has been, but I'm still supporting this movie thoroughly. Aldi Crevillo, I think it's her name. She was the girl who voiced Moana, and she takes the lead role in this movie, and she was absolutely terrific in the lead role. This movie, now this director already directed a Netflix movie this year called All the Bright Places. This movie is a very depressing feel to a teen. Look at the poster. Seems like a nice teen comedy that you'll forget about, but it's not. It has a lot of heart. It feels like a very real story. The guy who wrote the book wrote the book for Silver Linings Playbook, so that should tell you where you're at. A really, really emotional movie. It almost had me in tears in that third act. I was really into it. I had to take a 10 to 15 minute breather after I watched this movie because it was a lot of emotion. Now, my main issue with the movie is that they threw a lot of depressing stuff in your face at one time for this character, and she didn't need that many depressing stuff happening in her life. Fred Armisen's in the movie. Carol Burnett is in the movie. I really, really like this movie. One of my favorite movies of the year so far, and easily it's going to be probably my most underrated movie of 2020. Well, thank you guys for hanging in this long video. Tell me down below in the comment section your list of your favorite movies in the month of August, and tell me, do you agree with my ranking, or what would you adjust in my ranking list? My next video should be this upcoming Friday. If you haven't checked yesterday, I did an episode 3 spoiler review of Lovecraft Country. And also, as you can see, click those. My Netflix reviews will pop up right next to my head. My Disney Plus movies will pop up next to my head. And my Lovecraft reviews as well will pop next to my head. Thank you guys so much. Click, subscribe, do all those fun things. Social media is down in the description below. If you want to follow me and DM me all this type of stuff, please do so. And I'll see you guys in the next one.